is for children all over the world, recess at Sonrise School in Rwanda is that wonderful but all too brief pause in the school day. This complicated schoolyard clapping game is called Mabigibigi, and 11-year-old Deanne Tusenge is trying to anticipate her opponent's footwork. Deanne seems like millions of 11-year-olds. She has lots of friends at school. English and science are her favorite subjects, and she tries hard to keep up in French class. Deanne may seem like most girls her age, but ask her why she likes school, and then listen closely. The answer, spoken in a whisper, is not one that usually comes from an 11-year-old.
Because they're teaching us to love one another and to pray and to forget what happened to us.
But how can you forget this? A country and its carnage.
He has said that 1 week ago they dug up these bodies because these prisoners who were released recently, they are showing different graves whereby they had buried the people they killed.
In the spring of 1994, an estimated 10,000 people hid inside this church. They thought they were safe. They were slaughtered. In this church, even the angels seemed to cry tears of blood.
It's good that they have made this memorial, that everybody who sees these things, who sees what happened here in Rwanda, not only throughout the world, but everybody here in Rwanda should fight against genocide so that it may not come again.
In 100 days, 1 million men, women, and children were hacked to death, or if they were lucky, shot. 1 million people were murdered in a country roughly the size of Maryland. The genocide that traveled from one end of Rwanda to another wasn't the act of spontaneous madness. It was political, a calculated policy decision by Hutu extremists who didn't want to share power with the Tutsi minority. Hutus were urged to exterminate every Tutsi and kill any Hutu who didn't agree. But Deanne knows the killing didn't end in that 100 days. It continued off and on for several more years until it took her family.
The rebels, they come when we are at home, and they took my mommy and me, and they killed her and my brother, and they cut me.
They cut you?
Yes.
The machete blows landed on her arm and hands. Part of her finger was cut off. She was cut behind her head and on her shoulder. She was 5 years old. 14-year-old Theonist Andagiamana is surrounded by friends, but he confesses to a loneliness and to this nightmare.
I saw when they were shooting her, and then how they shoot my sisters and brothers, how they throw knives my father, like that, and then from there I woke up.
If only it were a bad dream. Theonist's father, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and a child born that same day were murdered. Theonist and his mother survived because they were covered in blood, and the killers thought they were dead. A few years later, his mother was also murdered.
Sometimes when I remember, I became angry. When I think about how they killed my family, how I am, how I will be in the future, I like to think about those ones.
And how can he forget his murdered family, or the gunshot wound in his ankle, or the rebels who tried to kill him in the hospital? Theonist is a Hutu. Deanne is a Tutsi. They are the children of Sonrise.
Okay, now who can do it?
They are the children teacher Jimmy Twayambe says were wild, primitive, when the school opened in 2001.
They could fight, they could abuse one another.
Abuse one another?
They could not come even to classroom.
They wouldn't come to class.
Yeah.
Most of the 361 children at Sonrise are orphans. Many are victims of genocide. For most of the year, this is their home. It's a safe place to live and learn.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Martha Vetter is part comic relief, part cheerleader, and part administrator at Sonrise. She's been here since the beginning.
Some children are more able than others in every arena, but they all seem to be moving forward, and that's really encouraging.
72 divided by 6. What is the answer?
The children learn the basics: math, science, history, and reading. They also learn French and English. While some kids may not like it, the school makes sure they're groomed and well fed. Cooks stir large wood-burning vats of rice and stew. They serve tons of potatoes and vegetables to hungry kids. Someone at Sonrise is there to take care of each child's needs.
I need to really know about some sick children. What happened?
Pam Hodges-Rolla has found that helping children with their daily needs and helping them cope with an unimaginable past requires patience, faith, and most importantly, love.
Love is the main ingredient. It can conquer everything. If a child has love, even things from the past can be dealt with and be lived with. And that's the most important thing. That's the one thing I came out to do, love the children, and that's what I'm doing. And I can see the difference.
This boarding school for orphans, tucked in the hills of North Rwanda, is the brainchild of an Episcopal bishop. His name is John Ruchahana. Where do you think these children would be if they didn't have Sonrise?
They'll be lost. And one of my groans, honestly, was that we would have lost a generation if we didn't start 2 years ago.
He realizes Sonrise reaches just a few children. A government figure estimates 500,000 children were left orphaned by genocide and then rebel fighting.
This is a small number of orphans taken to be used by God and by this church we belong to be a demonstration and to use them as a challenge to the whole nation so that other people can help even more orphans that are languishing.
Good.
The bishop wants the children of Sonrise, orphan Tutsis and Hutus, to be a model of reconciliation, to prove forgiveness is possible. The bishop knows his country must not only forgive each other, but the church. Bishop Ruchahana preaches in a country that suffered physical, emotional, and spiritual pain. Some pastors and priests in Rwanda failed their congregations. They either took part in genocide or did nothing to stop it. Since 1994, the church has tried to right those wrongs. One of Pastor Augustin Ahimana's jobs is to bring people together.
Sick relationships, so to say, are very harmful. And wounds, inner wounds, do not heal with time unless they are dealt with specifically. They do not heal with time. They are rather like time bomb or landmines. So if the wounds are not healed, if relationships are not healed, we would be living a sick country to our children, and at a time in the future, those time bombs would burst again.
Realistically, it's very difficult to have reconciliation because reconciliation requires realistic, factual honesty. And people don't want to get honest. They want to cover up.
The church and government leaders say they're doing their part to reconcile the country. Yatoi means he voted. Government officials figure 90% of the country's eligible voters overwhelmingly approved a new democratic constitution. Rwanda's leaders say the constitution will help stop future genocides. Rwanda Rwanda is a poor country. An estimated 70% of the population live in poverty. Most people survive on what they can farm. But it seems Rwanda is making progress to live peacefully. The government, though, has critics, most notably the human rights group Amnesty International. Godfrey B. Rahunga is an expert on Rwanda.
One of the measures that need to be taken is to ensure that people have the freedom to exist in Rwanda freely without having to fear persecution. And currently what is happening is that those who are not supporting the government don't feel that they have the right to exist, that they have the right, the freedom of association, freedom of expression. And that has been in the past responsible for bringing around a lot of violence and indeed serious human rights abuses.
Rosemary Musanamali is Rwanda's ambassador in London. She's read Amnesty International's concerns.
I have a feeling that the likes of Amnesty International, the likes of Human Rights Watch, tend to judge countries like Rwanda against countries like the UK, like the US. These are countries that have had their democratic institutions for a long time. Their democratic institutions serve their people. We had to develop a system, we had to develop a constitution that was addressing the problems that Rwanda had.
She says her country is trying hard to find and sentence the genocide planners and release some of those caught up in the mob killings.
In many cases, they are as victims as the people they victimize. So the compassion has, been to look at those people as people who have been victimized and try to understand without compromising justice.
Some of the prisoners running from the camera are serving time for their part in genocide. Thousands of inmates are being released as part of the country's reconciliation plan. The government is gambling on the country's capacity to forgive. Men and women will return to the villages they helped ravage, living next to the people whose lives they helped destroy.
They had whatever weapons. They came with machetes, grenades, guns, sticks, everything to They came at 3 a.m. and they surrounded the whole compound, and then they started with machine guns throwing bullets all over, and then getting into throwing grenades and starting cut people into pieces.
You have to wonder what Emmanuel Murangira thinks of reconciliation. He walks like a man whose spirit is broken. Every day he comes to this abandoned vocational school because he wants to be close to his family.
All my family was killed. About at least 50,000 people were killed here, and only 4 of us escaped. I escaped with 3 other persons.
Emmanuel was shot in the head. The killers thought he was dead. The scars on his leg are from a grenade. Every day, Emmanuel shows visitors graphic reminders of what happened here. In every classroom, and there are dozens of them, are the remains of men, women, and children. And in one of these classrooms is Emmanuel's family.
He says, I only survive by God's grace. I don't know what I can tell you. What do you think I survive with? I only survive by God's grace.
For Emmanuel, reconciliation has yet to begin. He's just one of the challenges Rwanda faces. The challenge here at Sonrise is to take a few hundred orphans and give them hope and a future.
It's a true demonstration of reconciliation. As a church, to put orphans of the genocide, the orphans of the perpetrators of the genocide, the orphans of all ethnic groupings be brought together, loved, cared for, healed from their trauma, and given hope as children from all these ethnic groups. We are demonstrating to this country that reconciliation is possible.
The greatest heritage we could leave to our children is a healed nation with healed relationships, reconciled people.
Theonis says before he came to Sonrise, he felt dead. He didn't think he had a future, especially one that included laughter. Deanne, shy, smart, a girl who loves to organize games with her friends. She wants to be a nurse when she grows up. These are children who survived when their families didn't. They are the children of genocide. The machete scars will never let Deanne forget, but she's forgiven, something she wants for her neighbors.
I tell them to love one another and to love their enemies.
They are the children of Sonrise. They are orphans who suffered unimaginable loss and pain. They are children who may help heal a country.